You might have seen this combo by Kamemushi before. It's pretty dope, but did you know that the setup is actually not a Mega Man exclusive? While the Razor Blade into Footstool and Jablog is obviously only doable with Mega Man, the Footstool out of Shield at the beginning isn't. I'm C5 from the Beefy Smash Dudes, and in this video I will show you how useful Footstools out of Shields actually are. When you shield an attack, there are sometimes a lot of options to punish your opponent, and other times only very few or none at all. This depends on a few factors. How much lag does your opponent's move have? How much shield stun does it apply? By the way, that means how long it takes until you can cancel the shield after getting hit. How much distance is between you and them? And for aerials, how high up are they when hitting your shield? All these factors make it really hard to predict whether or not you can punish your opponent. And if you can, which options do you have? And most importantly, what is the best punish? And that's where the Footstool comes into play. Now, I want to clarify that this technique is very hard and situational and is only rewarding for a few characters. You can't just footstool your opponent every time they hit your shield. But let's slow down a bit and take a look at the frame data first and see what's necessary for this to work. We'll stay with Mega Man as an example, shielding Sheik's forward air. As soon as he gets hit, the first state both characters enter is shield hit lag for 6 frames where none of them can move. Since hit lag counts for both characters, we can basically ignore it. After that, Mega Man goes into shield stun for 4 frames, where he still cannot move. After shield stun, he can start the jump. He enters jump squad for 4 frames before he leaves the ground. As soon as he left the ground, he can theoretically immediately double jump, or in our case, footstool his opponent instead. But realistically, this won't work a lot of times, because then it could happen that he double jumps too low to hit his opponent with a footstool. So we can add a few frames of jumping here to make it more realistic. Now let's turn our attention to Sheik. After shield lag ends, she could theoretically land on the ground immediately, where she would enter landing lag. But realistically, she won't hit her attack right before landing most of the time, so we can again add a few frames of falling here before she touches the ground. Her forward air has 10 frames of landing lag. Shielding would be Sheik's fastest option to protect herself from a footstool, since it comes out at the very first frame. From comparing the frame data of those two characters, we see that a footstool out of shield really is a legitimate option. In a lot of situations, it can theoretically be even faster than a normal grab out of shield, of course depending on how slow the jump squad of a character is. Okay, so the footstool is fast enough, but there is still another big factor we have to count in: the spacing, or in other words, the distance your opponent has from you after hitting your shield. A well-spaced forward air from Sheik is still impossible to punish with almost anything. But if your opponent misspaces a move and you can react fast enough, the footstool is not unrealistic at all. We already saw it in tournament, done against some of the best players in the world. Also, other moves might have much more lag than Sheik on her fair, so punishing them should be a bit easier, especially if they hit the top of your shield, so that it takes them even more time to land on the ground. Now, what about power shielding or perfect shielding? This basically has 2 useful advantages. Number 1, you don't get pushed away by the hit you are shielding. This can help you to get the footstool a bit easier, since you really have to be close to your opponent to footstool them. Number 2, the shield stun is reduced for power shields. This means that you can act sooner after shielding a move. This again, of course, makes it easier to punish your opponent with a footstool. Power shields are more useful against strong hits than against weak hits, because strong hits naturally give you more pushback and shield stun. Executing the footstool out of shield is pretty simple. You just jump once, and after you left the ground you jump again to get the footstool. Everything after that is character specific. But simple doesn't necessarily mean easy. You have to be fast, and additionally you usually can't buffer the second jump. You can only buffer it with stick jump. But if you haven't activated that, you have to wait a tiny bit after the first jump until your character left the ground before you press jump another time, hopefully while being close or above your opponent. So you might lose a few frames between leaving the ground and starting the footstool, but like I said earlier, using the second jump as soon as possible might not even be the best thing to do in some cases, because you could end up just double jumping. To increase the chance of hitting the footstool, you can use the little airtime you have to drift a bit towards your opponent by pressing the control stick into his direction. Make sure not to press it too early or you'll just start a roll out of your shield. Now, if you get the footstool, the hard part just starts, because the footstool itself won't give you anything except a little lag on your opponent, which you can use to execute a beautiful little combo. And I know that in many cases it's much easier and also more rewarding to just go for a grab or a different punish. But with some characters, the footstool can lead to a punish that deals more percent than anything else could, or even leads to a stock loss. Especially for tethered characters who usually have extremely slow grabs, this technique can help punishing even the fastest characters. Here are some more examples. I'm sure there are plenty of other useful footstool combos out there. So be creative and you might find one yourself. If you like this video and want to see more Smash stuff, subscribe to the channel, it would really help us out a lot. As always, thanks for watching, see you soon and stay beefy.